Welcome to CVPR601 Professional Behaviors. Today we're going to talk about the ABCP Code of Ethics. ABCP stands for the American Board of Cardiovascular Perfusion. It was established in 1975, and this organization is one of the most important organizations in perfusion. Let's look at their mission statement. They'll strive to develop and maintain quality standards in cardiovascular perfusion that promote safety and protection of the public. These standards will include the attainment and enhancement of knowledge, skills, and ethical professional conduct of certified clinical perfusionists, CCPs, by supporting pre-service and in-service education. This support will emanate from the design, implementation, and administration of the credentialing process. Additionally, the support will include stimulation of innovative educational activities and promotion of ethical professional development. If you look at the purpose, and the bottom line purpose is the maintenance of standards in the field of cardiovascular perfusion. And how do we do that? Well, it's through established qualifications for examination and procedures for recertification. So, the American Board administers a certification exam. This is really, really important for you students as you go through the curriculum. You're learning knowledge and you're learning skills. At the end of your journey through perfusion school, you'll be eligible to take the American Board exam. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And so the American Board has this examination, and it is a stake in the ground. You must pass this examination to become a certified clinical perfusionist. You cannot work in the United States without your certification. So this is what you need to practice perfusion. This American Board of Cardiovascular Perfusion certification level. So it is what you need. It is the most highly regarded perfusion credential in the world. And again, initial certification occurs when you go through an accredited perfusion program. You have achieved a certain number of cases in school, and then have pumped a certain number of cases as a new graduate. That is the gateway to the two-part certification exam. There's a basic science exam and a clinical applications exam. But this is what you need to practice perfusion. You must be very, very aware of the American Board. Now, the American Board also has a Code of Ethics. We talked about the AMSEC Code of Ethics last week. The American Board has its Code of Ethics, and there are 8 ethical standards which are codified in their document, and you can find this on their website. Let's go through each one of these briefly. Standard 1 is each CCP or candidate for certification, they'll be referred to as the individual in this document, shall comply with all existing and future rules, regulations, and standards of the American Board, and will bear responsibility for demonstrating compliance with the same rules and standards. An individual is eligible to apply for and maintain certification/recertification only when in compliance with the American Board rules, regulations, and standards. So, Standard 1 is you got to play by the rules. The American Board has certain rules, deadlines, criteria for certification and recertification, and you have to pay attention to them. You have to play by the rules. If you don't follow the rules, the American Board can deny or suspend eligibility for certification or recertification. They can deny, revoke, or refuse to renew certification or suspend your certification. They can also issue a reprimand or take other corrective actions regarding certification and recertification. So it's really important that you play by the rules with the American Board. They have a lot of authority. They are commissioned to protect the public safety, and this certification exam is the primary way it's done. Play by the rules. Standard 2. Individuals shall not willfully fail to promote the safety and welfare of the public, whether through negligent acts, acts of omission, or through misrepresentation. So if you fail to promote public safety in any of these areas, and that can be impairment of professional performance because of habitual alcohol, drugs, or other substance, or any physical or mental, condition, gross repeated negligence or malpractice in professional work would be a violation of Standard 2, of course. Failure to maintain current professional credentials as required by the jurisdiction in which the individual practices. This may include a license. In New York State, we have a perfusion license, and so if we're unable to maintain the professional credential in New York State, that may affect our ability to maintain our certification to the American Board. A plea of guilty or a plea of nolo contendere, which means no contest, to a felony related to public health and safety or the profession, and disciplinary action by a licensing board or professional organization other than the American Board. All of these things can be a violation of Standard 2 American Board Code of Ethics. So in short, be responsible, do the right thing in life and as a perfusionist, and you will not have any trouble with this standard. Standard 3, individuals convicted of or pleading guilty or nolo contendere to a felony directly related to public health and safety or the provision of safe, competent medical care shall be considered ineligible to apply for certification/recertification for a period of 1 year from the exhaustion of appeals, proceeds, or final release from confinement, if any. So if you get in trouble, if you have a felony that's related to public health and safety, or down below here, felony convictions considered for this standard include but are not limited to fraud, actual or threatened use of weapon or violence, rape, sexual abuse of a patient or a child, or prohibited sale, distribution, possession, or misuse of controlled substances. Any felony convictions related to these things would be a violation of Standard 3. To sum Standard 3 up, don't get in trouble and don't be an idiot. Don't, common sense. Just be a good person, don't get in trouble, don't be stupid. Standard 4, an individual shall not engage in unauthorized possession or misuse of the American Board credential, examination, or other intellectual property. Individuals shall respect the ABCP's intellectual property and comply with its credential trademark policy. So there is, we need to respect the intellectual property rights of the American Board. An awful lot of work goes into the maintenance of these certification exams and standards. So there is we have to respect that. We cannot have any unauthorized possession or misuse regarding the credential, CCP, or the testing materials. Standard 5 kind of goes along with that. You can't misrepresent your certification status or title in any organization or communities. The CCP is the Certified Clinical Perfusionist is an official title, and you can't misuse that. You can say you're a perfusionist, but if you're not certified, you can't say you're a CCP. Or maybe you have a suspended CCP, or maybe your certification has been you're inactive, and you may think there's some gray area, and you can say, "Well, I'm a CCP." No, you're not. If it's inactive, or if it's suspended or revoked, or it's just not enforced, you cannot use. You cannot misrepresent your certification status. So be completely honest about it. there are ways to get recertified once you've lost your certification. You can lose your certification, if you don't get enough cases in a certain year. American Board's good about allowing you to have a continuation on your certification to be able to get the cases. So, again, we're going to talk about this in a little more detail in class. Standard 6. The individual, the perfusionist, or the new grad that's applying for the exam will abide by reasonable test administration rules. No authorized possession or use or access of any examination documents or materials, nor shall the individual receive any unauthorized assistance, copy examination materials, or cause disruption in the testing area during test administration or the conduct of any portion of the certification exam. The individual is not subsequently use or divulge information gained from his examination experience for any reason. Nowadays we take the test at a testing center. In the past, you'd be in a room with a bunch of other people taking a paper and pencil test. So this disrupting the test area, I mean, that still applies. You're going to be in a cubicle in an official test center, but it's a little less of an issue today. But this is really important. You're going to see the questions on the exam. Some of these questions get used in subsequent exams. You can't really divulge any of that information. You can't talk about it. You may have taken some American Board practice tests. You paid for. Don't distribute them. Don't screenshot those and distribute them. You can't talk about the test once you take it. You can't relate. You can't call me up and say, wow, there's this question and it said this, this, and this. I can't listen to that. You're in violation of Standard 6, Code of Ethics. You cannot talk about that material. Again, each one of these examination questions, the American Board spends hours and hours on. They vet them. They test these questions. They validate these questions. And so to keep the purity of the examination process and the sort of sanctity of the certification process, you really just can't discuss the test. Don't talk about it. Standard 7. Individual must truthfully complete and sign an application in the form provided by the American Board. You have to pay the fees, give them any information they require. You can't make any material misrepresentation of facts during the application. Ineligibility for certification, regardless of when the ineligibility is discovered, is grounds for disciplinary action. So just don't stink and lie to the American Board. Don't try to pull a fast one on them. They have a process. They have examination forms. I know you want. This can happen later on in a person's career when maybe they've taken a leave of absence from their job, or they've had a family issue come up and they're out of work for a year for some reason, and now their certification has lapsed. Don't lie to the American Board. Be completely honest. They'll help you figure out the pathways to retake the exams. So just do not ever lie, but especially don't stink and lie to the American Board, because your whole profession depends on that certification. Finally, you have to report violations of any of these ethical standards and any other development bearing on certification in writing to the American. So persons concerned with possible violation of these ethical standards, our American Board rules, you're encouraged to contact the American Board. If you do, you should identify yourself by name, address, email. However, they may consider anonymous complaints. I think this is probably the most difficult of all the codes, because you can obey the code and keep your own personal conscience clean, but when it comes to noticing someone else doing something wrong, I think that's a more difficult thing to do. But we will talk about that in class, and I look forward to discussing these various standards with you. I will construct a quiz that will raise some questions that you can consider before class. Thank you very much.